Hey mamas, welcome to Breastfeeding Relief with Bethany. We share incredible stories, tips, and breastfeeding ideas to help on your journey. I'm your host, Bethany Laverne, a lactation consultant and speech therapist who helps mamas with breastfeeding. Not all breastfeeding stories are the same, and we dive into those topics. Welcome, Eva, to the podcast of Breastfeeding Relief with Bethany. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So mamas, today's going to be a little bit different. Okay. So we aren't really going to talk about Eva's breastfeeding journey, but Eva is coming with us with a new groundbreaking breast pump. And so why don't we hear a little bit about your story and your breastfeeding journey?
Yeah. So I'm a mama of two boys who are like now 4 and 9 years old. So my journey started long ago with them. And of course, there was a lot of ups and downs, as opposed to with every mama when you start breastfeeding. It's just like, good days and bad days, and you're trying to get the hang of it. So it was the same for me. And especially with the first one, you go through a lot of challenges. And I was trying to use a breast pump, but it didn't really work for me. So I was kind of trying to follow advices about different flange sizes and different inserts and just trying out different pumps, but they never really worked for me. And I didn't get much out, but experienced a lot of discomfort and pain, and which was kind of put my mind in a little bit of a doubt. Am I actually breastfeeding my baby well? Is he gaining enough? I don't see anything in the bottle. Does it mean that he doesn't get enough milk? Or so it set in a sort of doubt in my mind about my breastfeeding journey itself. And then at some point, somebody from the group, the Facebook group that I was part of at that time, posted an ultrasound video of an infant suckling. Mm-hmm. And that was such a huge moment for me, because I looked at that video and thinking, oh my God, that's what's going on in the baby's mouth. Mm-hmm. Like that looks nothing like what the breast pump is doing. Mm-hmm. And there was this point of like, what is this that different? There's such a huge difference between these two things. And that sort of set me on a journey to try to look into what's going on. How does suckling work? And why breast pumps don't work that way. So my journey while I was breastfeeding also became sort of a journey of exploration of the topic itself. And eventually it was leading into a much bigger thing. So me and my husband, we put our heads together and thought, would it be possible to translate what the infant is doing, the suckling action of the tongue, that really complex motion of the tongue, would that be possible to translate it into actual technology? Because there is something fundamentally important there that is sort of missing from the breast pumps. And the more we looked into it, the more we found that this is actually, based on research, is a very important part of breastfeeding, like how suckling actually works, how the tongue interacts with the breast. Mm-hmm. So we did a small proof of concept project on it, and the University of Goaway in Ireland picked it up, and they awarded us a 2-year research and development fund to go deep dive on this, work with experts, experienced engineers, lactation consultants, hospital staff from the NICU in Goaway, to be able to pin down the exact details and create a pump that mimics actually suckling. It doesn't just look like how suckling looks, but it actually pins down all the functionalities of suckling.
Mm-hmm. That is so amazing. I don't love that your journey was hard, but I love that you took your problem and you found a solution. This is absolutely amazing. If you listen to my podcast, my journey's similar, right? My son had a tongue tie. It was not done correctly. And so now I'm on this journey to help other mamas with their tongue ties, with their babies, go correctly, so they don't have so many problems like our son did. Yeah. So that's wonderful.
Yeah,
so I appreciate that.
I find it so many times that people who struggle with the problem actually are in the best position to figure out a good solution for that, because they experienced it firsthand, and they become a good source of information of how to help others. So I was kind of, you see, my journey didn't start with, I want to do this. I was looking for something that did this already. And we looked and they're like, yeah, none of the pumps do that. They just don't do that. They don't focus on that, because the idea of the sucking machine, the actual pump, has been established long before ultrasound imaging was available. So nobody really paid much attention to what's going on in the infant's mouth. The idea was that, oh, we have a pump that is physically able to remove liquid, as any pumps would. And that's where it stopped. So we couldn't find anything that's out there that I could use. So like, what can you do? You do it yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel, we're best suited for that, because we've walked in the shoes and then we find a solution, and we're able to help other mamas better because we walked through those shoes. And I feel like we connect so much better, right? I mean, we went on an IVF journey, and all the nurses that I worked with, that the doctor had hired, they had all been through IVF. So they couldn't say, I don't know what you're going through. They knew exactly what we were going through.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about your pump. So you've named your pump the Cala wearable manual breast pump. Why don't you talk, you've already talked about the suckling, but why don't you give us more detail about how it's different and how maybe it looks different than a regular pump we would just go buy from maybe Mandela or a different company?
Right. So the key difference is that it's not a sucking machine. It's not a pump like any other pump would be. So like the core idea of just sucking is not there. So the core idea is to mimic the tongue. And for that, we needed to pin down first all the 5 actions that are absolutely necessary for suckling and successful breastfeeding to happen. So these were the latch, compression, positioning, so what goes where inside the intraoral cavity. There's a lot of places, the anterior tongue, the posterior tongue, the soft palate, the side of the tongue. So it's very important. Then the vacuum and the sequencing. What is the order of action that's going on there that creates the necessary action, that creates the biochemical responses, that gets the milk out? So it was all these 5 actions that we needed to pin down and translate into technology. So that took a lot of time, a lot of iterations, a lot of trial and errors, a lot of things went into the bin because we had to make sure that these functions work together in harmony, not just by themselves. It's pretty relatively obvious to pin down one part, but to make it work with the others in combination, that was tricky. So we did a lot of work on that. So the difference is that it mimics suckling. The basis of its operation is that it mimics suckling. Apart from that, we managed to kind of bring out features that I think are very good, and moms will appreciate that. One of them is that it's wearable. So this is the only wearable manual pump, which is, we were very happy to be able to do that. I'm personally very obsessed with wearable pumps. I love that innovation. I'm very happy that it came out, 7-8 years ago, the first wearable pump. So I thought, yeah, we're not gonna compromise on that. We need a wearable pump, and especially that there is no manual wearable pump. I think that's going to be really appreciated by moms. So it fits in the bra, and you compress it. So you literally just compress it from the sides inside your bra. So you can press it through your clothes if you would like, or if you want to put your hand under your clothes and do it there, that's fine too. But the bra holds it in place, so you don't need to worry about holding it. Also, it's fully expresses your milk. I just want to say that because there are some milk catchers that you can kind of press once and it captures a little bit of your milk, your excess milk, but then you cannot press it again without emptying it first. So this is a full pump, So you can express your milk fully. And the third one is that it's one size fits all. And again, we have to refer back here to the idea that that if you follow nature's way, you actually mimic what the infant is doing,
Mhm.
then you don't need different flange sizes,
Mhm.
which at first was a question mark for us as well. That could it be that if you do what the infant is doing, you won't need all that additional adjustments like the flange sizes? And yeah, it is true. Like if you think of you're breastfeeding your newborn and you're breastfeeding your 6 months old, clearly they have different sizes of mouths, right? But still,
Yeah.
it's not an issue. Or the same way, any baby could breastfeed from any breast because there is that sort of flexibility in the actual mechanics that allow them to do that. So flange sizes, again, is something that we had to do because the original idea of the sucking pump is not adequate, right? It's lacking. So we're trying to make up for that lacking. But if you follow nature's way and do the suckling, then it's not necessary. So we tried it in many different sizes on the models. And yeah, it works perfectly for different sizes. So we're very happy about that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I am too. Because I feel like that's one thing when I was a new mom before I was a lactation consultant, I didn't understand that what comes in the box doesn't always fit you. It didn't fit me, but I never got anything different because I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to. I was just like, oh, well, if this is the size, like this is what I would do. And so yeah, so I feel like mamas don't understand that they need to get fitted. I don't feel like there's
Yeah.
enough. I feel like there's better education, but I would say even 5-10 years ago, we didn't understand that, right? And so I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
love that we aren't going to have to fit mamas. It's a one size fits all, which sounds amazing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like I remember with my firstborn, like different flange sizes, but it was an information that you could only come across if you dig really deep.
Yeah.
It barely came across that. But like with my second one, it was already an established kind of knowledge that yeah, you need to fit your breast pump to fit you. So yeah, it's an important information. And I would actually advocate for breast pump companies to make it part of their educational or information sharing package. It's a very basic thing, and it really impacts a mom's experiences with pumps. So yeah, I would advocate for that to kind of make that information part of what you say about your pump.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. So I know you've talked about this a little bit, but let's talk more about how you figured out a baby suckling with the breast pump. I know you had talked about, the ultrasound, which of course is amazing. I've seen a lot of those specifically because I am a speech therapist and a lactation consultant. But how did you really sit down and figure this out?
Well, it was hard and long and with a lot of iterations again. We went through over 120 research papers. So we started with what is the existing scientific foundation on this. And when I say 120 research papers, I wish I could say that all of them was on suckling, but no, there is actually very little established about suckling itself because yeah, who would do that? So it's like there isn't much funding towards that. Now you would find a lot of research papers about bottle feeding, right? Because there is a clear commercial agenda there. So there's a lot of funding going into that one. So it's a combination of that. So we took some of the information from the bottle feeding, then we took a lot of information from of the existing ones that are about suckling particularly. And then you do a lot of kind of mechanical trials on models and different prototypes. So we had a lot of models set up to say, okay, if he's doing, so for example, like if you look at historic research papers, there has been debated whether is the baby actually stripping the milk, or is it coming out another way? So is it the compression that gets the milk out, or is it the vacuum that gets the milk out, or is it the combination, or how does it go? So these were the things that we needed to actually try out and see how it goes, to be able to understand it more clearly. And of course, we were building on the existing knowledge of amazing experts and amazing medical professionals here in Goaway and in Limerick, in the Limerick Hospital as well. The NICU in Limerick has an amazing professor working there who was a great deal of help with that. So the experience of these individuals were a great deal of help. So yeah, these were the inputs. And then of course we had to put all of this into a technology, and that's where the university owns the patent. So there's a lot of patent related proprietary information there. Once we were gathering all that together and put it all together. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wow, that's a lot. I'm overwhelmed thinking about trying to get all of that together. So, but it sounds like you had an amazing team behind you.
Yeah, an amazing team. And we had 2 years of funding, access to lab, access to resources, which is absolutely necessary. Like I remember there was a 3-day conference a few years ago in MIT with this exact title, Make Breast Pumps Not Suck. And I love that title already. But it was a 3-day conference. A lot of people came together and like, yeah, let's do this. But 3 days is not enough. 3 days is just scratching the surface. You know, it's even hard to identify a problem in that amount of time, let alone to figure out these really nuanced details, you know?
Yeah. Well, Eva, I absolutely love this. I am not in the pumping stage anymore or breastfeeding. So maybe I need to go have another baby to try out your pump. But why don't you let all of our other mamas know that are still pumping how they can get their hands on one of your new pumps?
Yeah, sure. We are in a very exciting time right now because we have a working prototype and we are starting a crowdfunding campaign in August and September, where we're gonna where moms can actually go onto that page, is the Kickstarter page, and get their own Cala manual variable pump. So they can pledge $50 and get that pump. It's going to be ready in about 9 months time. So with all the setting up the production and the web shop and the certificates and everything together. So there will be a bit of waiting time, but you know, for a second baby, third baby,
yeah,
it's always good to have that. And so we are very excited. It's going to be a limited amount of pumps, so I would like to emphasize that, to make sure that if somebody's interested, to get there in time to be able to get your pump. And it's only open in August and September because there's a time limit on these campaigns. So yeah, so I'm sure you're going to include that link so moms can head there right now to check it out for themselves.
Yeah. And mamas, that's an amazing price. I know there are so many pumps out there, and some of the wearable pumps are $200 to $500. So you are getting an amazing deal, right? Sorry, you got to wait for it a little bit. But, you know, personally, even with my pump that I got, it was covered by insurance, quote unquote, and I still had to pay $50 for it. So, anyways, I think this is absolutely amazing. Yeah. So, I will definitely link it below. Eva, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited about this. We will definitely stay connected. I would love to have you on again after this comes out, and I want to hear how it's working for all of our mamas.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much, Bethany, for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for listening in. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much if you would share it with another mama or post on social media and tag me. I want to personally thank you for wanting to help other mamas. You got this. I'm rooting for your breastfeeding journey.